actually recommend that you do build a launch-centric business when you first begin, because a launch-centric business can give you a much longer runway on your capital by collecting so much money up front that you can feed into your machine. But over time, you should be transitioning to not being a launch-centric business where your course is always on sale at some various points in the funnel, that you're getting new buyers in every single month or week.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We're here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name is John Ainsworth and today's guest is Greg Elfrink from Empire Flippers. Now, Empire Flippers is the #1 curated marketplace in the world when it comes to buying and selling online businesses. And Greg's the director of marketing, and what he does is he helps educate markets about the potential they have with buying and selling their businesses. And today we're going to be covering how to build and sell digital courses as assets. Now, something that not a lot of people know is that sometimes courses can be a really bad business for selling, but they don't have to be. There's ways of tweaking that. So we're going to cover today why info products are amazing businesses, why people often don't want to buy them, how you can make them into the perfect asset, and how to scale them through experts. This isn't an interview. This is a talk that Greg gave for a summit I ran a few years ago. Now, before we get into the talk, if you want to know how to 2 to 5 times your course revenue, then we've got a free training for you at datadrivenmarketing.co/webinar. It's fast-paced training. I'm going to share an overview of our whole system, how it works, why it works, case studies, examples, silly jokes. You're going to learn how much more money people made, how you can use that same system too to grow your course business as well, or info product business. It's totally free and you can register at datadrivenmarketing.co/webinar. Now over to Greg. Let's get on with the talk.
Hey everyone, my name is Gregory Elfrink, and I am here to do a presentation today on how to build and sell digital courses as assets. So before we dive into all the good stuff here in this presentation, I just want to go over who I am and who we work for. I work for Empire Flippers, where we help people buy and sell profitable online businesses every single day of the week. We have become an Inc. 5000 company for 4 years in a row, which means we're one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. And we have done over $100 million in deals sold. Throughout all of this, we have become the #1 largest curated marketplace in the world when it comes to buying and selling online businesses. So who I am personally, my name, as I mentioned, is Gregory Elfrink. I am the director of marketing at EF. I lead the marketing team. I help grow the brand, nurture traffic, and generate inbound leads. I also educate the markets about the potential they have when buying and selling, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So let's go over what we're going to be covering here. We have a lot to get through, and I want to make sure you get as much value as possible packed into this brief amount of time. So in Act 1, we're going to discuss why info courses in the first place, why do people like them, and the core benefits of those courses. In Act 2, we're going to be discussing the Achilles heels, why no one actually wants to buy them. And in Act 3, we're going to talk about the perfect asset, or how you can fix your info course business to turn it into an actual asset that you can sell. In Act 4, we're going to do a little bit of a thought experiment, a little bit journey through time, if you will, on how you can scale courses through experts. So that's a whole lot of stuff to get into. Let's dive right into it. So why info courses? First of all, you're in a very good position. If you are in this course either looking to build your own course, or maybe you already have a course that is running fairly profitable and you're just looking to scale, you're in a good spot, because that means you're capitalizing on a $325 billion industry. Analysts right now are predicting that by 2025, that the e-learning industry as a whole will reach this number. Entire marketplaces right now are getting huge valuations, capitalizing exactly on this e-learning trend. So think Udemy and Skillshare. These are 2 huge marketplaces that are taking advantage of the e-learning craze. Their e-learning is by no means on the decline. If anything, it's actually increasing. So that is all really good stuff. So let's get into the core benefits of info products. There are really 4 main ones. Obviously, there's others too, but these are the 4 main ones that I always think about. The first one is the incredible margins. So outside of the cost of actually producing the course, which is a one-time fee typically, you pay practically nothing to deliver this product over and over again. That means the margins are as close to 100% as you can possibly get with an info course, which leads into the next section that you can do. With an info course, you really have wide open advertising. And what I mean by that is because margins are so good with an info course, you can really do almost any form of advertising and marketing that other business models just can't do. They're more restrictive here because their margin can be quite low, like in the case of affiliate marketing or even low ticket e-commerce products where pay-per-click costs have to be monitored closely. Otherwise, they can go in the red very quickly. Info products are much more forgiving on that front. The next thing is kind of also tied into the previous two is that expenses just don't scale the same. As you grow, the only actual expense that scales with the revenue you're generating will be advertising expense and slightly your customer service expenses, since the product creation cost is just a one-time cost. The expenses scale even better with info products in some ways than a SaaS, a software as a service, because there is no line of erroneous code or bug that you'll need to correct typically. So the final benefit here that I like to talk about is a little bit more of a soft benefit, but I do believe it's extremely powerful when used correctly. And that is connections, upsells, and audience building. So info products can position your brand as the expert on a topic, similar to how writing a book or keeping a blog on a topic can make you into that expert. This will make your brand into an actual expert that doesn't just deliver content, but opens up doors for you personally in your business. Other thought leaders in the space will want to connect, partner, and collaborate, which can lead to an explosive growth. In addition, it is easy to add upsells to info products, whether through affiliate offers relevant to your course or other info product add-ons. In addition to all of this, you're nurturing and maintaining an audience, which is the most lucrative thing to build and maintain in the business world. When you have a very good audience that's engaged with you, you have one of the most profitable assets that buyers are looking to acquire. So, all that being said, info products have a real problem. They have a glaring problem that plagues almost 100% of the ones that I see that try to sell their business with us. And that is they are usually worthless assets. Usually. No. So what do I mean by that? After I just listed all these core benefits, why would I suddenly say that most of the time these are worthless assets? Well, there's a very good reason why most buyers and investors think that they're worthless assets. And that's the Achilles heel. This is the reason why no one wants them. So the reality of most course businesses look a little bit like this. One, they're personality brands. And by personality brands, what I mean by that is that you usually are the course creator, as in you are the one actually in the course, delivering the education and speaking to the customer. You're on the sales letter, you're on the blog, your face is everywhere, right? You're a personality brand. You're the guru of the business. And all the students have a relationship with you, the owner, rather than the actual branding of the course. So this is actually useful when you're starting out because personality branded business tend to make money faster than, say, a logo branded business where really they're counting on the emotional aspects of the brand to, build that trust and loyalty with the audience. So personality brands do have that advantage when you start off, but when you go to sell, the caveats and the fallacies of the personality brand become a lot more clear. So let me give you an example. If you're selling a fitness course and you have an 8-pack of abs, it's obvious you're an expert, right? You have the finished product of what the student wants. But what happens when you go to sell this course to a 67-year-old investor with a pot belly who looks at your business as an acquisition? It's an instant no for him, right? He'll never have the credibility you have to sell the course. Maybe he had it 30 years ago, but he doesn't have it now. Plus, he'd have to redo the whole course unless you decide to let them keep using your name and face, which is always a risky proposition for both buyers and sellers that can lead to future problems. So that is one of the big things that holds back a lot of course businesses. I'd say this is probably the most common reason why course businesses often do not sell is because they are so personality driven. So that leads into the second part. There are no topic experts. There's no topic experts on staff, and there's often no staff at all. So in the same vein as above, you are likely the one teaching the course. And again, there's nothing wrong with this when you're starting out, but this means a buyer also has to be that topic expert, which is unlikely and limits your potential buying pool right out of the gate to only other topic experts on your course. You don't want to limit your buyer pool because that is also going to limit what you can earn and what you can ultimately sell for. So in addition to this, most course creators, at least that I interact with, are what I like to call an army of one. This means they're doing everything from the course creation to actual advertising and customer service. This provides very little in the way of a leverage system that a buyer can take advantage on. So you're starting to paint the picture here. And in fact, the next thing follows the same pattern, which is community and launch driven. So the pattern here is, again, if you are the course creator and say your course features a community like a premium Facebook group or some other form, you are likely inside there helping and coaching your students every day, or at least once a day a week, or once per week. And again, this means that the buyer must also be an expert, and not only be an expert on the topic, but also be an expert at community building and do those same things that you are doing. Not only that, but many course creators use a launch strategy to sell their courses. And while this is actually a pretty great model for building hypes and sells, it is actually a terrible model if you decide to sell the business. The reason being that the launch income, which maybe you launch once a quarter, maybe twice a year, is considered far too unpredictable for most buyers to feel comfortable acquiring your asset. They just never know if they'll be able to repeat that past success. Whereas a course always on sale, you can see the average monthly cash flow, and it makes for much better forecasting decisions by that buyer or investor. So those are three of the main things that I see that drives most buyers, probably like 99% of them, away from actually acquiring an InfoCourse business. So these are three things you'll definitely want to avoid, and we'll get into a little bit more on how you can avoid them here in a little bit on in the presentation. So remember, if you want an exit, you have to know why someone is buying. And we kind of touched on it a little bit before, but the why is so key. It's not just about them making money. They also want to make money in certain ways and for certain reasons. Just like you started your info course probably to make money, but you also had other goals there, right? Maybe you had some lifestyle goals that are business or professional goals or personal goals that are all tied into how you created the business. Those same emotional whys are very similar to someone buying. So let's ask ourselves, why do people buy digital assets in the first place? And I don't just mean info courses, but really this goes for really any digital asset. So e-commerce store, SaaS, affiliate site, anything. And the three main reasons are this. Now, there are probably a million different emotional reasons, but most of those emotional reasons are often going to be tied to these three things. So these are three things that are very, very important for you to answer. How can you give this to the buyer of your course? So the first thing is, most buyers, investors in our space, they invest into digital assets for an aggressive return on investment. Digital assets provide some of the most aggressive rates of return of any investment someone can make. While riskier than other investments and more volatile than, say, real estate or stocks, depending on the market conditions, buyers are willing to take the risk and to see the amazing returns they can get by acquiring these digital assets. Some are looking to replace job income for sure with a digital asset so they can quit their 9-to-5 and go and do their own lifestyle goals. But many others are literally building empires of digital asset portfolios. I know people who have raised over $150 million just to go out and acquire this asset class. So there's some really big money in this space, as well as people just getting started. The next thing that buyers are looking for are systems of leverage. So again, they don't want to buy a job. If this person wanted to buy an online job, they just go be a freelancer if that was the case. They're looking for assets that have at least some systems in place that they can leverage. Now, you don't need to have everything figured out, but you need to have some way of showing the buyer that yes, by buying this course, that buyer will have some form of leverage. And one of the big benefits of buying a business already making money is that the product has market fit already proven. There's data they can use to maximize returns, and there's often at least some systems and processes in place that serves as a kind of a launching pad for them to scale the business even further. So these are very, very important points. The next one is a bit counterintuitive to the other points, and maybe counterintuitive to you as someone potentially looking to sell your course down the road. And that is the idea of perfecting imperfections. So the most savvy buyers of digital assets, whether it's an info course, e-commerce store, SaaS, or anything above, the most savvy buyers and the ones willing to pay you the most are often the ones that see everything you've messed up on or just weren't good enough to maximize. And then they're going to go buy that business from you, and they're going to go fix those issues, maximizing the potential of what you were missing out on. And it's okay, by the way. This isn't like, me trying to shame you or that you made this huge mistake. This is actually a good thing in a lot of ways. It's okay if the business isn't perfect, as often the mistakes that you as the seller makes are often the opportunities of the buyer. So those mistakes can often be the impetus why the buyer wants to buy your business in the first place, why they feel it's such a good deal, and sometimes will pay even premium prices to buy your mistakes, depending on what the mistake is. However, there are caveats here, obviously. There needs to be at least something for them to leverage to begin with. If they have to fix everything to make the course business operate as an asset, then they may consider it too much work versus just starting their own from scratch. The biggest benefit of buying is that it acts as a kind of a shortcut to cash flow. You as the seller need to demonstrate that your course business is indeed that shortcut where a buyer can come in and say in 15 or 30 months ahead, or it can be 15 to 30 months ahead of that initial timeline rather than at month zero if they have built that business from scratch. So these are some of the core reasons why someone might buy a digital asset. And these are also useful things along with the previous 3 bullet points I shared, course businesses don't sell, to answer for yourself with your own course business. How is your business shaping up here? Are you starting to see some cracks here? Hopefully you are, and you're seeing a lot of ways you can improve. And we're going to get even more into that because we're going to give that buyer exactly what they want. And what they want is that perfect asset. Now, when I say perfect asset, I don't mean it's flawless. Like I said, buyers do like perfecting imperfections. All I'm saying is we want the perfect asset that stands the best possible chance for us to make a lucrative exit when we do go sell this asset. We want buyers to think, wow, this is a great deal, rather than like, whoa, there's no way I can be that 33-year-old person with the 8-pack abs selling this course, because that is just, that's just not me, right? So we want them to be able to envision them taking over this business. So what goes into making a perfect info course business as an asset? So there are a few things here, and obviously I already mentioned quite a bit, but let's go over this again. So anatomy of a perfect asset here. First off, evergreen and consistent. This is something many info course creators do not consider. So one of the best kinds of info products out there that you can be selling as an asset to investors is one where the information inside of the course doesn't actually change that often. If your info course is on, say, internet marketing, one of my favorite passions, right? Entire strategies can shift and change dramatically within just a month's time. And what that means is that you as the course creator, if you want your course to stay good and credible, needs constant updating. And if your course is on, say, dog training, on the other hand, that information will remain pretty much relevant forever. It doesn't really change, with the only updates to the course coming when you either want to, say, add more education, say as a new upsell, or just want to expand the current product you're selling for free, or you want to up the production value of the course, because there's really no new innovations that are coming out in dog training. Oh, I say that, but there probably will be now that I've said that is going to change the landscape forever, right? For the most part, if you have that dog training course, or say like a course on how to get a certain type of engineering certification or something like that, most of the time those things are not going to change. They're very slow changing industries, which is great for you. So choose an evergreen topic if you can. Now, if you're already building a course and you're like, shit, I did not do that, that's okay. You can still build the course that you want to build, but do consider, how can I make this more evergreen and consistent as you are building it, so eventually you can sell this as an asset. So choose an evergreen topic, and that topic probably will be more boring than one that changes all the time. It doesn't have to be, but it often will give you a better asset to sell. So boring is not bad when you are thinking about selling the asset. It can actually be quite good for you. In addition to evergreen, you want to make sure the revenue is actually consistent. And I talked about this earlier, but you want to make sure it's consistent by not doing a launch-centric business. Now, if you're just starting out and you want to do a launch-centric business because you've heard all the great stories that can happen from that, I actually recommend that you do build a launch-centric business when you first begin, because a launch-centric business can give you a much longer runway on your capital by collecting so much money up front that you can feed into your machine. But over time, you should be transitioning to not being a launch-centric business where your course is always on sale at some various points in the funnel, that you're getting new buyers in every single month or week. Investors, just in general, they won't like these launch-centric business, so that's why you need to do that transition if you really want to get the best possible multiple. And you will not get anything worthwhile typically in a launch-style business. It might actually depress you what they're willing to pay you, so just keep all of that in mind. The next one is brand first. So again, you may start off as a personality brand to save money and make more money quicker, but your long-term plan needs to be to remove yourself from the business. Get experts on the topic that are in there to actually teach the course. You can find experts pretty much everywhere that would love to do a project like this if you can focus on finding the passionate experts in the space. So a passionate expert might be someone you find, say, in a relevant subreddit or some other forum, some other connection you have. Maybe a college student that is learning this stuff, who is becoming that expert, can become your course creator, right? When you find this expert, make sure you don't make the mistake, by the way, of just making them the face of the business. This is a very common mistake I see people make. Instead of making them the face of the business, where you're just exchanging your face for their face, but for the same problem, you should be building a brand. It will take longer to get your audience to have this emotional relationship with just a logo and a web presence. But trust me, it's going to make your business worth far more down the road. And it can make you even more money in the future if you decide not to sell the course business, because now that you have a brand and a logo that is not personality based or branded to a certain face, it can be a lot easier to add a new instructor for new related courses you want to create in the business. So the final part of the anatomy of a perfect asset here is leverage. So what are the systems of leverage you have in place? Do you have a written or video recorded standard operating procedure? Do you have staff in place that handles things like customer service? What is your marketing process? What is your SOP for topic experts on how they create the courses for you? Do you have a machine, or do you have a job that you're selling the investor? Investors do not like jobs, but they absolutely love machines. The three forms of leverage you can create to appeal to an investor is going to usually be staffing, the SOPs you created, and the organized data from things such as your marketing campaigns, such as the cost per lead, email subscribers, your data on conversions, etc. All of this helps to demonstrate you have an income machine for an investor to acquire, rather than a job that they're just not going to be interested in doing. So, all that being said, if you plan to ultimately sell your info product business, you'll want to know what is the actual possibility that you can cash out on and how these valuations actually work. What can you actually get for a business like this? So let's run through a quick example here and kind of explain how valuations work. So if your business is making, say, $5,000 net per month over a 12-month average, and your multiple is, say, 30x, you could sell the business for around $150,000. Now, that 30x multiple is a monthly multiple, not an annual EBITDA like you might see with other brokers. We use monthly because we view that helps us be a little bit more granular when it comes to online businesses. But just keep that in mind. That is a monthly multiple, not an annual multiple. So let's dive into a bit of what goes on to that actual making of the multiple that gave us that $150,000. Because as you might expect, figuring out your average net profit is actually the easy part, but understanding what goes into the multiple can be a bit more ambiguous. Multiples can range quite wildly and dramatically from each other. So a multiple could really range from 20x all the way up to 60 or even 70x, depending on the quality of the product. Now, most businesses that we see right now in the marketplace, and this is just across the board, tend to be between 30 and 36x. Now, for lower quality ones or a seller that wants to sell quick, they can often be lower, or higher quality ones, or one that a seller is willing to hold out on for, that real high offer, they could sell for more. So it all just depends on the situation. But let's go into some of the stuff that actually affects the multiple. So again, average net profit, this starts as the base of the equation. So look at your past 12 months, average out your net profit. If you're doing a launch style business, by the way, you'll still need to do this. So you want to still get a 12-month look at your average net profit. So maybe you only launch, again, like twice a year. You want to average out the profits you made from those two launches over the 12-month period. This becomes the foundation of the valuation equation. In addition to this, age is taken into account. Since an older business that is several years older than another business has likely probably weathered more storms, and that means it's likely going to get a better multiple. All the more reason that you should be producing evergreen style courses rather than ones that are in constant flux and need of updating, because if you are building one that is in constant flux and need of updating, and this is something I've seen quite often, you might update it for the first year, 2 years, something like that. But I tend to see people drop out of updating their courses after that 2-year mark. They're just like, this is too much. I'm going to go and do something else, right? They get sick of updating over and over again. So again, that's another benefit of an evergreen style course in that you don't really need to update it very often, if ever. So what goes into that multiple? The first thing we'll look at is growth trends. Is the business trending up, down, or steady year over year? While everyone running a business absolutely loves to see a graph trending up like a hockey stick, these are actually less enticing to an investor. So if you have rapid growth, this can actually cause investors to be concerned the business is a fad or taking advantage of an unsustainable loophole, or maybe it's just a growth spurt that will eventually die out and level somewhere much lower than where the chart is right now. So all of these things are red flags for an investor. Investors love boring, steady year-over-year growth charts much more than the hockey stick dream graph that most entrepreneurs want, right? If your business is declining, by the way, this doesn't mean that you can't sell the business. There are buyers that do buy declining businesses. You can attract investors here because there's usually some kind of like underlying issue that they might be able to fix. And remember, investors like perfecting imperfections, right? Just keep in mind, if the business is declining, you will likely get a lower multiple and the buyer pool will be smaller, because the buyer pool there has to be much more confident in their ability to fix whatever mistake or whatever is causing the decline if they're going to buy the business. So usually they're going to be a much more experienced buyer, and they're going to be a little bit more savvier and probably talk you down a little bit on price, which is reasonable, all things considered. So the next part is traffic diversity. When you're selling a business, you want to present an asset that has mitigated what are known as a critical point of failure. So what is a critical point of failure? This is something that I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, but don't worry, it's actually a little bit simpler than you might think to get rid of a critical point of failure. So these are points that if they fail in your business, you basically have lost the entire business. One of the most common critical points of failures that we see is a lack of traffic diversity. In this case, it is a business getting, say, 100% or close to it of all of their money traffic from, say, SEO or Facebook ads. And that's it. There's only one way they're driving new customers and new revenue. The question then becomes in the investor's mind, okay, how does this business survive with a Google algorithm update that takes away all of the traffic overnight, or suspend a Facebook ad account that now I can't run any of these profitable ads? So the business just dies right away because it only had one thing going for it. You can mitigate this by having several different traffic channels all converting at once. One of the best ways to start diversifying, because I know this can get really overwhelming because marketing can be intense and complex. One of the best ways to start doing this in your business is simply by building an active email list. And when you do this, you should ideally have more than just one product or more than just one way to make money off of your list than just your core info product. So whether that is other info products or affiliate offers related to the product, you should have more than just one. So that way the email list can be used as a traffic source. And the cool thing about email lists is a traffic source you own. It can't be taken away by a Google algorithm update. It can't be taken away by a Facebook ad account ban or anything like that. And thus it can help improve your multiples in a serious way, not just in traffic diversity, but also in increased lifetime value of each customer, right? Because now you have more things you can sell them, which ultimately will increase the LTV and hence the actual valuation of your business. So the final aspect here is how plug and play is your business. So I like to ask sellers this question, and you should be asking yourself this question if you really are serious about selling your business. And that is, how important are you to that business? Like, does the business rely 100% on you? Would it keep growing or at least be profitable if you didn't do anything for a month or two? If the answer is yes to that, then you're in a good position. Your goal as an entrepreneur should always be to become useless, which sounds bad, but it's actually good. When you become useless, that means your business is running with or without you. This is the most ideal scenario for most investors because it means you have built true systems of leverage, right? A buyer can acquire and literally be plugged and play with your business within days or a few weeks of running the business with some light coaching from you. The roadmap of how to do anything in the business is crystal clear, and you have the staffing to do it, so you're not the linchpin of keeping the business running. So ask yourself how plug and play your business is. Now, this fourth part probably will affect your multiple the least in a lot of ways, but it will affect what I like to call the attractiveness the most. So attractiveness is your ability to make a quick, smooth sell to as close as possible to the price you actually want to sell at. The more your business is plug and play, the smoother the sales transaction is going to be because the more attractive your business is. All right. So that was a flurry of information in there. Before we finish up this section and go to the next section, I want to leave you with a very, very powerful quote, and I truly believe this. So when the moment comes, the moment you sell your first business is the moment the game truly begins. I tell this to online entrepreneurs all the time, and I've been working at Empire Flippers now for 4 years, and I've seen this story repeated over and over again with our sellers. And the game I'm talking about is the game of wealth creation. So when you sell your first business is the moment when the game of true wealth creation truly begins for you, in my opinion. So that leads us into Act 4, scaling courses through experts. When you sell your business, it is likely the moment you have the most capital liquidity in your entire life. Maybe not always, but for most sellers, I say this is true. Even if it's only a $100,000 or $200,000 business that they're selling, usually that's the most liquid they've ever been. Used wisely, that capital you've received can become the seed fund to absolute massive wealth. And the cool thing is you've already have some of the elements here. And when you sell the business, you have the other part of the equation you need to start this wealth building plan. So I'd like to say it's capital plus skill equals scale. A successful sell means you've likely mastered or refined several key components to start accelerating wealth creation. And you accelerate that wealth creation using the capital you get from selling that first business. So here are just 4 things that you have more or less refined or maybe even mastered by the time you've sold your first business. Or if you didn't master, you know a lot more about now that you did sell that first business. And the first one is systems. If the business you sold wasn't built using systems, like I said, you probably know a lot more about it and have a healthy respect thanks to the buyers that negotiated down your price because you didn't have those systems. Systems are a key ingredient to wealth creation as they provide leverage, but they also provide clarity on what to do, how to do something, and they can be iterated upon and improved, thus providing even more leverage and even more clarity. It's a virtuous cycle. The next thing is talent. So if you took my advice and you went away from being a personality brand and you actually had employee building out the course and being the instructor, as well as a few other employees, that means you probably have an inkling of how to manage employees or contractors. And that is absolute paramount. Delegation is one of the key skills to true wealth building. You are only one person, and therefore you will likely need help if you want to go faster, if that is your goal at least. The next thing is marketing. Since you sold a business, you probably understand at least a little bit of how marketing works, right? Because your business had to be making revenue and profit from somewhere. So you probably understand how a pay-per-click campaign works or how an SEO campaign can benefit the business. But more importantly, you know how to implement these things correctly. And now that you have capital, you can probably also bring on some talent that you can teach how to implement them correctly, or you can hire someone who just knows how to implement correctly out of the gate. In addition to all of this is the core foundation of everything. So when you were building your info course business, the one that you ended up selling, you probably did a lot of market research, or at least you should have. In addition to everything else, when you understand how to research a market, you can find the pain in that market. That means your course can be created specifically to solve that pain. And understanding that market pain is the foundation to everything else. It bleeds into your marketing, bleeds into what your talent does, and also bleeds into how your systems are formed and created. It's the literal foundation. So if you feel like you haven't mastered this yet, before you go and build your next business, you should definitely master market research, because without good market research, you're basically building a sand castle. But with good market research, you're building a veritable castle. So castle of stone, not sand, that is. So this is how it looks like when you're scaling for wealth using this model. First step, market research. Second step, build the course and the marketing. Third step, sell the asset. So that sell the asset might be 1.5 to 2.5 years after you did the market research and you've been selling the course successfully. And then you go and sell the actual business to an investor using all the things I just described that makes it the perfect asset for that investor to buy. It's just simple, the why they want to buy it is plug and play, all that good stuff. Then you take that capital that investor has given you and you simply rinse and repeat. So you go through steps 1, 2, and 3 again and again and again. Now, if you don't touch any of the money you get from selling the actual asset, and you just plow it back into accelerating your systems, it does not take that long. You can have a crazy nest egg built up in just 3 to 6 years of real hard dedication and work, especially when you start selling courses at a high enough rate where you don't just build one new course business at a time. You might be building 2 or 5 new course businesses at a time. Because remember, now you know how to delegate, you know how to manage that talent. You already have systems that are probably translatable over to the new business. All you are really doing at this point is, the market research person, right? You're always researching new markets. So as you sell your first business, maybe you can only build one business at first in addition. But as you sell that second business, now you might have enough wealth to start building 2 or 3. And you sell those 2 or 3, and now you can start building 4 or 6. And it's just, again, keeps repeating on itself. I like to call this the asset flywheel, by the way, where the asset itself is the fuel that allows you to go out and build more and more and more assets. But the key to making it work is, again, do not touch any of the money you get from selling the business. Only use that money to actually grow and accelerate. Now, everyone's plans is different. So if you're not a fan of high leverage, you incorporate a little bit in there where you pay yourself some of the money of the proceeds of the business, of the sell, and then the rest of it goes into financing, your course empire that you're building. But this is the path I have seen so many people do on our marketplace with other business models. I don't see it as often in courses, and it's mainly because people usually don't get over the hump of how do I make a course that is sellable in the first place, which now you know how to do that. You can go into this phase here and you can skip the whole personality brand thing. You can just go into building a true brand that doesn't matter who the instructor is, because the audience's relationship is with the brand, not so much the actual instructor teaching the course. So those are some of the things to really consider. And it only takes one good business sell to put you on a different financial playing level. One course business built as an asset that sells for even $200,000 can unlock doors you may never imagine existed in the first place. All it takes is understanding what the buyer wants, understanding good systems, good leverage, and having a good plan for yourself, and make sure that plan matches not just your business goals, but your lifestyle goals. And when you go sell your first business, that is when you're going to be able to start really unlocking some powerful wealth creation stuff that you probably didn't even know existed in the first place. And hopefully, if this little speech has given you any insights into what you can do, hopefully you're very pumped what your future looks like. So thank you. I know that was a ton of stuff that I just went through. If you are building a course right now that is making some money and you're just curious what this business might be worth, you can get a free valuation by using the link below. All you have to do is follow that link, and don't worry, don't have to talk to anyone. It's all automated, so don't worry about that. And when you're ready to sell, we're always here to help. Whether you use us or not, honestly, I'm always willing to help. So you can connect with me either just by going to empireflippers.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook, or just shoot me an email, greg@empireflippers.com. So hopefully, again, you are very excited at what you can do. I absolutely love info courses. A big reason why I am where I am today is actually because of info courses. I bought a bunch of courses on internet marketing, on business, all sorts of different stuff. I still buy courses all the time. I'm just finishing a 4-month intensive on Facebook ads, but I also buy courses on a bunch of other stuff too, like how to write novels or storytelling and all this cool stuff that I love. So I'm a big fan of info courses personally. I think they have the possibility to change your student's life in all sorts of positive ways. And if you build your info course correctly, I think it can change your life in a very dramatically positive way as well. So again, thank you guys. I will talk to you later. Enjoy the rest of the event.